Did you know that if I had a magic wand and I could wave it and remove all the toxins, the toxicity from your body, you would be instantly well? Well, we don't quite have a magic wand, but in this series, I'm going to show you how you can powerfully detox your body and make huge impact and huge changes in quite short order when you know what to do. Welcome to the Health Builders community, where you will find safe and simple natural solutions to common health problems. So, what are toxins and where do they come from? Well, it's an interesting question because most people would think, oh, well, okay, toxins are things perhaps you ingest or you breathe in physically and they impact your body. And that is true. Toxins come from many, many sources. Obviously, we live in a very polluted and toxic environment with all the stuff in the air falling down out of the sky onto our food, eating food that has chemicals and preservatives and additives and all those things in them. But there's also other sources of toxicity in your body, and that is within your own body, within the gut. You have bacteria that are breaking down your food and creating lots of toxins. And even the cells themselves are producing toxic byproducts as a result of their cellular activity. So toxins are everywhere and they come from everywhere. And one of the great keys, there's really two great keys in healing. One is reduce inflammation, the other is eliminate toxins. When I say eliminate, I mean get them out of your body. They're always going to be coming in, they're always going to be around. You're not going to get rid of them completely, because like I said, if you could, you'd be magically well. But the journey to healing and the journey to health is a journey of removing toxicity from your body. And the more effective you are at doing that, the more rapidly you can do that, the more powerfully and really dramatically you can get well. So the good news is that you can do this. The good news is that you are empowered. You have it within your own power to do this, because it relates to lots of stuff that you're doing yourself anyway. You don't need doctors and medical systems to be able to do this. This is a natural built-in process that is built into every single one of our bodies. So that's the good news. And the journey along the way here is to basically show you how to do it. And in many ways, it's a lifestyle change. So it's going to involve changing what you're eating, changing how you're thinking, changing your exercise. None of this is particularly dramatic. Small adjustments can have massive impact. That's the good news. And there's a lot of good news in this whole story. But before we go into the physical side of this, in other words, where are these toxins coming from? How do I stop them? How do I get rid of them? I want you to understand something that's really very significant, probably more significant, in fact, definitely more significant than any of us realize. And that is the fact that there are toxins coming into your body from an emotional and mental perspective. So you can have emotional toxins. I know that sounds weird, but it's absolutely true. There are two. Let me really explain the whole thing, start from scratch, because this is very, very, very important to grasp as you develop your own healing program and you go on your own healing journey, because this is empowering information. Now, it'll be new to you and you may not have thought about it, but it pretty well is logical and it's really, really significant. So let me paint the big picture for you so you can understand the power of the mind and how it impacts on the physical body. So everybody, God created everybody as a spirit with a soul living in a body. So you are a spirit, you have a soul, you live in a body. So your body is like the vehicle for going around the earth. It's basically your earth suit, or whatever way you want to see it. And of course we know, most people will accept, when the spirit leaves, the body dies. That's death. That seems to be pretty well understood. So the spirit is your connection to life, your connection to God, if you like. Your soul is your mind and your emotions, that part of you that you know as you, and all these energies, we'll call them, I'll explain that in a second, are driven, or they won't collide, they actually travel down very specific pathways into your body, and that's what causes the physical body to exist, to have life. So basically, thoughts are very real and they're very powerful and they have impact. Now, we're talking about thoughts as being something that is actually, I nearly say, physical. You know that you have thoughts, you know you have feelings, but you can't pick up a thought and stir it into your tea, and you can't, neither can you take an emotion and stir it into your tea. I mean, if you're full of fear, you know it's there, but you can't physically touch it, right? So this is an energy field around your body holding all this emotional energy, the thoughts, the feelings. It's all there in the biofield around your body. And it travels down through the acupuncture meridians and the chakras and things like that to get into your body. And this is understood, the Chinese understood this thousands of years ago. They mapped it all out. They knew exactly how it worked. And they knew that every energy, physical energy part of your body has an acupuncture meridian associated with it. And they were able to develop systems through that that were really powerful for healing, and still are. They still are. But my point is that your thoughts and your feelings, because of the way the body is designed and the way we function, create a pattern that basically goes into the running of your body. And you can have toxic thoughts. We all have toxic thoughts. And they create toxic emotions. And toxic emotions impact your body in a physical way. So when we're talking about dealing with toxins, as in physical toxins, which you can identify, we're also talking about dealing with emotional toxins, which you can identify, but which you wouldn't necessarily put in the same bucket, so to speak. So in order to detox your body, you absolutely have to look at the emotional side of things. I mean, negative emotions are toxic emotions. Fear, dread, panic, terror, there's loads and loads of them. Unforgiveness is a very toxic negative emotion. If you hold on to enough of it, it builds resentment, a negative toxic emotion. Anger, if it's not processed, can be very toxic, and so on and so forth. And you'll find that as you study this, and this is where you're really going to get fascinated, you've at this stage hopefully already taken phase 1 of the training, in learning muscle monitoring. That's the basic one. If you don't have that, a lot of this is going to be impossible to implement, because a lot of what I'm talking about here is being able to identify the things that are good for you and the things that are not, both at a physical and emotional and mental level, because we all have thoughts and feelings, and some of them are not so positive, and we need to identify those. And when they get buried in your supercomputer, I'll explain that now in a second. I know I've already explained it, but I'm going to do it again because the concept that's hard for people to get, then they can cause negative programs to run. So what I'm saying is that your body, this huge, incredible, magnificent human body that you have with 70 trillion living cells, is run by a supercomputer, which is up here. Now, it's not something that you know consciously about, because it's your subconscious and your unconscious mind. That's where all the programs that are running, because I'm using the analogy of a computer because it works, and this is actually how we function. So you're running billions and billions of programs every second that are telling all the cells what to do and keeping your body functioning. And those programs are, for want of a better word, automatic. But like any computer, you can have bugs in a program. Loads, I mean, you know, garbage in, garbage out. This is this thing called GIGO in the computer world. If you put in garbage, if you tell a computer the wrong thing, it's going to do the wrong thing. So we're getting all this negative stuff coming on, which is kind of difficult to really deal with if we're not careful, if we don't understand how to do it. So the trick with all of this is being able to identify what the problems are, where they got buried. Let me give you an example. So let's say as a young child you had a very traumatic experience. Now, the way the body is designed, you have all sorts of programs, but you have a survival system which is designed to keep you alive. So it will run all sorts of extreme programs to get you through that trauma. And when you got out the other side, you're still alive, then it has succeeded insofar as it's kept you alive. But along the way, it may have run some really catastrophic and disastrous programs to keep you going. Those programs are locked into the system, and they may still be running in the background, causing you discomfort and dysfunction at a physical level for years. I mean, this can go on all your life. So these simple understandings are really critical. With energy kinesiology, your supercomputer knows this stuff. We can go back in time, and I'll show you how to do this. And you can literally diffuse the issue, go through the stress, diffuse the issues around it, release those negative programs, and everything starts to change. This is all part of the toxicity side of what I'm trying to explain to you. So we're running lots of programs that are inappropriate, that create, for want of a better word, toxic situations in your physical body at an energy level, which then becomes manifest physically. Now, this probably is quite hard for you to get, because I've been doing it a long time, so I kind of understand it a little bit. But for folks who've never thought about this, it's something that it is absolutely a game changer. So what I'm saying to you is that you have thoughts and feelings at a physical level, emotionally, affecting your body. You have the conscious part of it, which you know about, and most of it is unconscious and subconscious, which you don't know about. But the programs are still there, and they're still running away, and they're still causing you grief. So with energy kinesiology, you can learn how to identify where the programs are hiding, and you can figure out how to let them go, how to fix them, which is absolutely fascinating, and it is a game changer. And believe it or not, even though we're talking about something that's not physical, it becomes very easy to do when you understand the system. There's a system in place that just tells you how to do it, and you just do it, and it works. So this is something that you will definitely learn to do this as you go on your healing journey, because it's such a game changer, and it isn't very difficult. And that comes up in the second part of the training. So the learning muscle monitoring course has three components. There's the initial component, which is to learn to actually use the muscle, which is obviously the key to everything. The second component is learning how to find information in the human body, where things are hiding, where the problems are, the cause of the problems really are. And the third part is how to clear those problems, how to diffuse the issues using simple natural techniques which have been developed over time. So those are the three phases. Now, you absolutely need to do phase one. As you go on your journey and you start realizing, gosh, there's stuff going on here that I need to be able to get at and clear, you can easily do phase two. None of these are complicated, and I'll talk you through it. It's not difficult to do. And then obviously once you've done phase two and you've identified, oh, here's what the problem is, you obviously want to know how do you clear it, and that's phase three. The three pieces of training, which is available online at any time. So the reason I'm telling you all this is because a big part of the toxicity in your body, being locked in your body, is coming from the energy field outside of the physical. Let me give you an example. Arthritis would very commonly have an association with resentment. That's an interesting reality. A lot of the different physical conditions have connections to the emotional field. So people who have not been able to forgive, who are holding on to resentment, will often end up with arthritic conditions, can be quite difficult ones. Another one would be if you're having a lot of bowel problems, large intestine, constipation, stuff like that. Apart from the obvious connection to food, it can also be very connected to guilt and grief and regret, and it can be associated and can lead to depression. All the different physical organs are connected to the emotions. The liver is greatly impacted by anger and rage, and will often hold on to those emotions. And if there's enough of that in there and it's not processed, it really affects the liver, the physical liver. It's a bit like if you had a volcano and you put a lid on it. Well, the pressure builds, and eventually, boom, it's going to blow. To learn a lot more about this as we go on. But what I'm trying to explain to you is that all the physical organs in your body are deeply connected to your emotions, your thoughts, and your feelings. And the result of the blockages that they can cause in the energy field can lead to a buildup of toxins, but it certainly leads up to pain. So pain in the human body is always blocked energy. That's how it is. So let me give you an example. Let me tell you a story. I had a lady came to me years ago. Her daughter brought her along. Now, she was an older woman. She was a granny, I think. So she was probably heading into her 70s. And she, like most people, would take the view, go to the doctor. But her daughter had come to me with a chronic problem and we'd had great success. So the daughter was enthusiastic and dragged her mum along. And of course, Granny pops in the door and her first thing is she wants a pill. She wants a tablet. She wants something for the pain. What had happened was she had a pain in her thumb. Her thumb was really painful. And anytime she moved it was excruciating, and she'd been to the doctor and she'd had injections and she'd had drugs and tablets and really hadn't had much success, and at the moment she was in a lot of pain. So anyway, her only perception was, well, maybe a tablet will fix it. So I said to her, no, there's no way you're going to fix this with a tablet. I don't give people tablets for this type of problems. We're going to go after the cause and see if we can get rid of the cause. Now, for her, that was like, she didn't really connect with that. She didn't know what I was talking about. But I used a very simple technique, which you will learn in the second section, and the third section actually of the training program, the basic muscle monitoring program, learning muscle monitoring. And I just used that simple technique to help her. And it was as simple as this. Using the muscle, I identified the emotion. So I said to her, feel the pain. And she said, oh, it's there. So I basically asked the body to show me what's the emotion behind this. Using the muscle, just checked a list of emotions, found the one it was. Got her to think about that while we did a simple clearing technique. And then we went back and tried the pain again and kept doing this. Yes, she said, still there, it moved to different places. This is a big feature of when you're clearing pain. And it kept moving around her thumb. We kept doing this every time we'd find a pain spot, find the emotion, clear it with a particular technique. Kept doing it. Probably worked on her for half an hour, maybe 40 minutes. Kept doing it. And all she was basically doing was tapping the points or doing whatever it was I asked her to do. Thinking about the issue, the pain associated with the emotional trauma that she was experiencing. So she was basically, with the word I would say anger, for instance, I'd say, okay, identify the anger, think about the things in your life that are causing you anger. And when we'd find what that was, I'd say, okay, now focus on that anger, feel it as deeply as you can. We do the technique. Then we go back and find the next one. The next one might have been fear, or the next one might have been dread, or could have been panic. There was loads of emotions. Kept doing it. After 40 minutes of doing that, she had no more pain. she couldn't believe it. Like she couldn't find a place where she could move her thumb where there was pain. Because what had happened was, how these things happen is like this. When we get traumatized, and when we have to deal with any sort of issues of stress in the body, your body creates compensations. So think of it as like an onion. So you have this compensation and that worked. Now we have another stress, another compensation, another compensation. You're building up layers and layers and layers of like an onion, of stress, of ways of dealing with stress. But eventually the onion gets so big you can't do it anymore. And the wheels fall off the wagon and you get a physical manifestation. It's in some part of your body. So all we did was we peeled off the layers of the onion, kept peeling, finding the next emotion on the next layer, and kept going. And eventually we got to the point where she didn't have any more layers. We got to the causal issue, cleared that, and it was remarkable, absolutely remarkable. But what I'm pointing out to you here is that the physical body is extremely responsive to emotional stress. And so you can be working away on you may have a particular pain or an ache in a certain part of your body. I can guarantee you, without any fear of contradiction, that every chronic illness has emotional trauma behind it. It always does. And if you don't start looking at that and peeling off the layers and dealing with it in a simple and safe and very effective way, you're never going to get rid of the problem, because you have to treat the cause. The cause was a block in the way the energy is flowing into the system because of the trauma of the experience or whatever it was that happened. I hope that makes sense to you, but it's extremely important to do this. And you basically need to understand that if you don't include this aspect of your being in your healing program, you are not going to get rid of the chronic issue you're suffering from, because it's always part of the journey. So your journey is, sure, adjust your diet, take a little more exercise, drink a bit more water, stop eating sugary foods, and do all the normal natural things I'm going to show you. And I'm going to give you a list of things to do. Test everything so you know you're not eating a poison or a toxin. This is a game changer at a physical level. And then deal with the emotional trauma behind these things at the same time, using a very simple process and a very simple system, which you will learn in the Learning Muscle Monitoring course. So you're basically equipped then to start peeling off the layers in relation to the mental emotional side, dealing with the physical stuff, and then you can also add in perhaps some herbs, whatever your body wants at the time. But that's the fundamental, that's how you're going to deal with this issue. And I don't mind what the problem is, it doesn't matter. If you take this approach and you start dealing with the causal issues behind why you have a problem, you are going to get progress. It is absolutely inevitable, because it's a bit like, imagine a tube with water running through it, and you put a bung in the bottom of the tube. Now that starts building up pressure because the water can't go anywhere. So you're building up pressure in the tube, and the buildup of pressure is like the blocked energy. The energy can't flow, and it builds up, and then the pressure starts creating pain. So when you remove the bung from the bottom of the tube, you let the water flow, or you let the energy flow, the thing that was causing the pain, the blocked energy, starts to flow. And these things work very quickly in the energy field, because the energy, your thoughts, your feelings, the acupuncture meridians, all that stuff is working at enormous speeds. It's not short, it's not slow, it's enormously rapid. And everything in the body is a lot faster than we think. So it's all happening at great speed. So you can make tremendous changes in quite short order. Like that lady with her sore thumb, that never came back. That was a done deal. We've dealt with the issues behind it, and it never came back. Now, in fairness, dealing with a lot of chronic illness, you're often dealing with years and years and years of accumulated trauma. And in many cases, you're not going to fix that in 5 minutes. You're going to need to have a journey, you're going to need a plan, and you just do a little bit every day. But little by little by little, as you start removing these blocks, improvements occur, and sometimes quite quickly. I'm not saying everyone's going to get a result as rapidly as that lady did in 40 minutes to remove a very severe pain, but it can happen, and I've seen it many times. So deal with the underlying causes. That's the key. And with energy kinesiology, you're empowered, you're equipped to do this, so that as you release these energies with simple techniques, you start empowering the body to produce the enormous potential, to actually release the potential you have to bring health and healing back into your body. So I'm basically saying that there really isn't anything that you can't resolve, because there's other aspects to this mental, emotional stuff I'm talking about, which I haven't even touched on, which are extremely powerful. And actually, if you want to know more about that, go to the training program I have called The Power of the Mind, and that will plug you in to how you can even accelerate the whole healing journey and the healing process. So what I'm saying is, we started this module off talking about toxicity, and in the next module we're going to go back to the physical levels of how do you get toxins out of your physical body at a physical level, and that's one part of the puzzle, and it's not difficult. But the bigger part is remembering that the toxins aren't just physical, and as you do the physical stuff and as you deal with the emotional stuff, the whole thing starts to unravel beautifully, and you start noticing your energy increases, pain levels decrease, all sorts of stuff starts working, because basically this is about helping you to get well and then stay well. That's the whole journey. First, you've got to get well, and then by applying these principles and understanding how the body works, you're going to be able to stay well. And age does not necessarily come into this. If you follow this journey, I don't really mind what age you are. If you follow the principles and listen to your body, you're going to start heading in the direction of greater health and more vitality. That's just the way we're designed. So in the next section, we'll look at the more physical side of toxicity and how to deal with that.